Stainless steel freezers. These are for the storage of samples cryogenically in either liquid nitrogen or nitrogen vapor. They are non-pressurized and, depending on the model, can store between 2,500 and 94,000 vials. Some are designed for liquid use, whilst others are specifically designed for vapor storage. Some of the liquid use models can be converted for vapor storage, but this does carry a number of issues. Most models are fitted with a control panel with autofill, which allows full auto control and monitors important alarms such as liquid level and temperatures. Samples can be stored in a wide range of inventory, including vial boxes, goblets, blood bag boxes, and many more. To understand the reasons behind some of the advice within this presentation, it is important to know how cryogenic storage vessels are manufactured. A vital part of any cryogenic storage vessel is vacuum insulation. Whilst cryogenic vessels may seem similar to vacuum flasks, they are much more sophisticated. The basic construction is an inner and outer vessel connected generally via welding at the top where the two come together. Super insulation material is inserted between the two vessels and a high-level vacuum is created in the gap. This greatly reduces the amount of heat transferred from the atmosphere to the inner vessel, which contains both the liquid nitrogen and your samples. So the integrity of the vessel and the vacuum plays an important part in the security of your samples. And over the next few slides, we will be looking at how you can spot any potential issues, reduce your nitrogen losses, and protect your samples. Whilst the design of aluminium freezers has not changed a great deal over the years, stainless steel liquid nitrogen freezers continue to evolve. Modern stainless steel freezers are much more efficient and secure than earlier models. So when troubleshooting, one of the first things you should consider is how old is your existing freezer. If you are using your freezer for cryogenic vapor storage and are still using an old style wide neck unit, this will use more nitrogen and have less security than modern freezers specifically designed for vapor storage. As with all cryogenic vessels, a good vacuum is critical to the integrity of your freezer and samples. Once again, check for icing and condensation on the exterior surfaces. Has your nitrogen usage increased? Most modern stainless steel freezers will have controllers which should display your daily liquid nitrogen consumption. Regularly monitoring this consumption will give you an indication as to whether the vacuum is failing if you see the nitrogen usage start to increase. Some freezers allow you to download the information from the controller and put it into a spreadsheet to make this analysis easier. If you see a significant increase in your nitrogen consumption, you should investigate the root cause. This could be a number of things including vacuum failure, lid left open too long, and too much liquid nitrogen drag out. So don't go buying a new freezer until you fully understand the issue. Every time the lid is opened, you will see a white haze. This is not nitrogen but moisture condensing from the atmosphere. That moisture can condense on the lid or even inside the freezer and so cause internal icing. Check for icing on the lid of your freezer. If you see icing develop, then this needs to be removed before it falls off the lid and inside the freezer. This needs to be done with care to prevent any ice from falling inside the vessel during the removal process. We recommend putting a non-airtight cover over the opening of the freezer to prevent moisture from entering the storage space and to minimize the top box temperature change while the lid is open. Allow the lid to sit at room temperature for approximately 30 minutes, ensuring no ice melt enters the freezer. Once thawed, thoroughly dry the lid, cork and liner, inspect the lid for damage and replace any parts if necessary. Also check that the lid is sitting properly on the freezer. If this is not the case, it will allow more nitrogen to evaporate from your unit, reducing the security hold time and allow heat to enter the top of the freezer, impacting on the top temperature. Check for icing in the base of the freezer. A buildup of ice in the base of the freezer will interfere with the proper function of your freezer and level sensing system. The only way to get rid of this is to defrost the freezer entirely. This is obviously very labor intensive, and you would need to find an alternate vessel to store your samples. So how can you prevent this happening in the first place, or at least identify issues at an early stage? Check your temperatures. You need to ensure that they are remaining stable and well below the glass point of -130°C. Vapor freezers with full width lids generally find it more difficult to keep a steady temperature without using more liquid nitrogen. Remember, there is no such thing as too cold. If there are temperature spikes, then this may require investigation. Make sure that your temperature probes are in the correct location and regularly calibrated. We talked about liquid nitrogen consumption on a previous slide. Again, regular monitoring will allow you to spot issues at an early stage. Is the consumption stable, or does it spike? How often is it accessed? Again, freezers with full width lids will consume more liquid nitrogen than those with offset lids designed specifically for vapor use. Some freezers allow you to manually dip test the liquid level, which you can use to calibrate the liquid levels in the controller. A regular visual check of the outside of the freezer can give an early indication of vacuum issues. Remember though that if the freezer has just auto-filled, then there will be condensation on the outside, so it is best not to check just after a fill cycle. And if you see icing start to build up on the lid, address it early before it builds up. Carry out a complete function test every 12 months to ensure the controller is still functioning correctly. This can identify potential problems before symptoms develop. Function test documents can be written based on the user manual or by using the manual itself. Some freezers are fitted with a battery backup that allows the freezer to continue working in the event of a power failure. If these batteries have been on the freezers for some time, their condition could have deteriorated. Carry out regular checks in line with manufacturer's recommendations to ensure they are still working for when you really need them. A lot of what we have covered so far are what can happen to the freezer physically, but other elements can also impact on your nitrogen usage and sample security. Here we look at how incorrect handling can also have an effect on your overall liquid nitrogen consumption. When opening the lid on the freezer, always do so slowly. This reduces the drag out of nitrogen vapor. It also minimizes the level of fogging at the lid and so reduces the need for the defog function, which can also impact on your nitrogen usage. Try to keep the lid open for as short a time as possible, especially freezers with full width lids used for vapor storage, as the top of the vapor will warm up quickly, potentially above the glass temperature of -130°C. The way samples are removed from liquid nitrogen freezers is also important for several reasons, including economy, sample security, personal safety, and floor damage. If samples are being stored in liquid, remove them slowly over the freezer to allow any liquid nitrogen to drain back into the vessel. This reduces the amount of nitrogen lost by spilling outside of the freezer. This is also advisable safety-wise to protect the operator from nitrogen spillage and negates any damage to the floor by cryogenic nitrogen. Note that the speed of removal of the inventory from the freezer still has to be fast enough to ensure the samples at the top of the racking do not get too warm and rise above the glass point of -130°C. Thank you for taking the time to watch this webinar. If you have any questions relating to any of the points raised in this presentation, we will be happy to assist you. just contact us via email or telephone using the contact details on this slide.